welcome to This Just In with This Just In. As your host, Justin Cord. This is a show where we take a deeper dive into the stories most important to you from here on KTVB, and we talk to the people who bring you those stories. And that person today, our guest, our returning core respondent, she hadn't heard that before. It's Abby Wilt. Abby, welcome back.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
Are you? Because it seemed like it took a lot of finagling with my people calling your people calling I don't have people. But
I don't
you,
either.
man.
Reporters are busy. What can I say?
Thank you. Yes. Way to throw it back on me. It's like, we're not like you anchors that get to sit around behind a desk, read words that mostly other people write. I apologize. Yes, you reporters are actually out there gathering news, putting together stories. And we're going to talk about one of those on the show today, people losing their homeowners insurance because of wildfire threats. But first, Abby, you spent a lot of time at the World Cup of Skiing in Sun Valley recently. How cool was that?
It was awesome. It was a bigger event than I even realized when I was covering it going into it. I've always been interested in ski racing, so when I heard that this event was coming to Sun Valley, I was like, oh, that's a really big deal, and we need to get on it and cover it. So started doing a lot of work, just doing the preparations and seeing kind of how the city was coming together to put on this big event, and then being there was awesome. Ski racing was very fast. Could not have done that. Got to talk to Lindsey Vonn, so I was starstruck.
That is neat. And now, did you do some ski racing growing up?
When I was a kid, I did. Yeah, when I was little, but didn't carry it on through high school. I had to decide between sports when I got a little older, classic.
Did you ask him? It's like, hey, let me out there, see what I can do. I can represent Team USA, or...
They did actually let me ski the course before the athletes got there, so I did get to race down it. It was pretty awesome, but I didn't go quite as fast as them.
Dang, all right, maybe next time. Was that scary at all? I mean, those, when I've seen sort of point of view of those ski hills or runs, I mean, it looks like they're straight down.
It was straight down. When I was looking up before I got up, I was like, okay. I can't break a leg before I have to go cover this event, so I need to be careful. And then honestly, when I was skiing it wasn't that scary. I felt fine. Nice. But then watching the video back, I was like, whoa, that looks scarier than it felt in person. But I was thriving. I thought it was so fun.
That was fantastic. Now, you did a lot of great work, as you said, sort of pre-reporting on the event, planning for it, prepping for it. Was that all just part of your plan to get to go to Sun Valley a bunch on the company's dime?
No. I mean, it was a lot of work. However, I was very thankful to get to go. I think when I first started reporting on it, I didn't even think I'd be able to go. I was like, this is so cool. They would never send a newbie reporter. And so once I started hearing I was going to get to go, I was really excited.
That is fantastic. And I mean... a lot of great news and exposure for that Sun Valley area, that local economy and all those folks there. They had to just be over the moon about how it all went.
They were really excited. I think the first day they were a little bummed because the races did have to get canceled due to wind, but that wasn't necessarily Sun Valley's fault, and they just really put on an amazing show, and I think everyone in the ski racing community was so impressed by the way Sun Valley handled the event and how it all came together with fans and all the events in the city during the races. So it was great. It all came together really good, and they're trying to host it again in 2027. So cross our fingers.
Fantastic. Maybe you can go to those as well, or next year's if they're in Vienna or wherever. I don't know.
If anyone needs a ski reporter, you let me know. But ski season's over now. I'm going to be bored. I don't know what to do with myself.
Yeah.
I'll figure out something.
Probably in the Alps. It's like ski season year round.
Probably.
Yeah. All righty. Well, we'll have to check that out. More here locally. You've done a lot of stories on people in this area losing home insurance because of wildfire threat. What can you tell us before we roll this piece that you had from a few weeks ago?
Right. So a lot of Idaho, as we know, is very rural and is very prone to wildfires. And so insurance companies across the nation, but especially here in Idaho, are starting to realize that insuring those homes that are so rural are too big of a risk to insure. So they're not renewing people's contracts, leaving a lot of homeowners without home insurance at all. And it's been hard for them to, they'll bounce from insurance company to insurance company trying to get insurance. And it's been hard. Yeah. It's been a struggle for a lot of people.
Sounds really scary. So, yeah, let's roll this back, and then we'll talk more on the other side.
And then we got a letter saying that they were dropping us.
Dana Newbaum knows this frustration all too well, repeatedly losing home insurance coverage in Idaho.
In 3 months, we've had 3 insurance companies.
The struggle to insure her Cascade home continues to this day. She finally found a plan, but even they won't cover wildfire risks.
Light a match to our house and let it burn up. But if a forest fire came through, it wouldn't be covered.
Farmers insurance agent Troy Hooper says deciding what homes are worth the risk to insure is a challenge every agency is facing.
Any insurance carrier who is in an area like that is going to assess their risk and decide whether they're profitable or not, or if it's a good risk or not.
Companies take each area in the gem state and rank them based on environmental factors, like how dry an area is and how susceptible it is to wildfires. An area can be low risk, moderate risk, or high risk.
As you go farther up in the mountains, you've got the higher extreme ones.
Then agents can assess properties too. If they decide a home is prepared for a wildfire, they'll decide to take that risk.
I was insuring a place up in Cascade that is right behind the fire station. And I had to send a map to farmers to say, no, seriously, they are right behind the fire station.
Hooper says it's not all out of the hands of the homeowners either. They can make improvements to their property, like adding green, wet area around a home in the woods to reduce wildfire risk and give agencies the confidence to insure them.
You want to make sure that there's at least a border area to protect the house.
Hooper says if you are dropped, there's always other options.
Call your agent. That should be your first call. Find out, what's my next step? Can I get in with another carrier?
Under Idaho's Fair Plan Act, Hooper says every homeowner has the right to property insurance, and if they can't get it through a regular agency, like farmers, they can work through a fair plan to find an alternative option.
I know people get really panicky when things like this happen. Stop and take a breath and realize you can get through this.
So I can talk about that.
And we're back. There's Abby Wilt telling me about what we're going to talk about on, right now, actually. So you just heard from an insurance agent there saying, you can get through this, they can get through this. But it's really easy to say because Dana's on her 3rd insurer now, still not covered. That's got to be pretty scary.
Right. A lot of the homeowners that I have talked to have said it's scary, especially when fires come out of nowhere. You never really know when they're going to come, when they're going to hit you, and they're not necessarily just in like fire season now. They can be year round. So homeowners are like, well, I don't have home insurance right now and the wildfire could come through. So it's definitely been a struggle and scary for them. But I know the Idaho Department of Insurance has been really helping homeowners and start working through this problem. So
now we heard about the Fair Plan Act in that story, and I was like, oh, okay, that means she can get covered. And yet that actually can't happen in this state.
Correct. So Idaho does not have like a Fair Plan Act. I think 22 states have it, and so that means that they are able to get insurance no matter what. So instead, the Idaho Department of Insurance is working on trying to pass legislation to help with wildfire mitigation in homes instead of having something like a Fair Plan Act. And so what that would do they would have programs that would go through homes and help them become like Firewise in a way. So cutting down trees, and then that would then produce a certificate that would then you could give to insurance companies to say, I'm Firewise, you should insure me. So that's kind of what they're working on now rather than a Fair Plan Act. So we'll see what happens. It'll be an ongoing discussion.
Because that's the whole point of having insurance. It's like, fires can happen at any time. Yeah, there's an increased risk. That's why I need the insurance, because wildfires are bad, and I live here amongst the trees, amongst the forest. But you talk about being Firewise. Let's talk more about that. Obviously, it would reduce the risk a little for insurance companies, where homeowners could say, I'm doing what I can to reduce your risk, my risk. So, we're kind of all doing everything we can to keep a fire from burning down this home that you're insuring. But in the end, if something catastrophic rolls through, I'm covered. What sort of things do people do to get Firewise?
So one of the big things is replacing like all wooden fences with metal fences, making sure trees aren't too close to each other so then the fire could like jump from one to another.
Gotcha.
Making sure there's like wet, damp area surrounding the home, kind of like a border. So like
Yeah,
grass or gravel, something that can't catch on fire easily. A lot of homes that are in more rural areas will log their trees so there's not as much like fuel for fires to be able to get through. So things like that people might not necessarily think of when they're buying a house, but when you live in Idaho or California or Washington, it's important to think about stuff like that.
Absolutely. And when you're in a rural area, in a forested area, you have to be thinking about that because it could save your home, save your life, save other people's lives. So yeah, the Firewise really critical there. Being Firewise, those measures, moving firewood away from your home, replacing your roof, stuff like that, not 100% effective. Idaho's fire seasons, they just keep getting worse. I mean, is this just a risk that unfortunately people are just going to have to deal with and do their best with if they're living in these rural parts of Idaho?
You know, I asked that question. I was like, we're going to have fires, so is this problem just going to keep escalating, or kind of what's the solution here? Yeah. And I do think everyone right now in Idaho is kind of at a standstill as well. Like, okay, well, we're going to have to somehow solve this. We need insurance. But I think, the Firewise seems to be the best solution that people can come up with right now. So I think the state's going to try to start heading in that way, at least based on what the Department of Insurance is telling me. So it's an issue that we'll continue to follow and continue to see what happens with.
Yeah. And you could save your own properties around you, communities. So awesome. Okay. Abby, thank you for being on that. Now, up next, we're going to look ahead to what evidence could be used in the trial of Brian Kohberger. That's right after this. It is going to be one of the most followed trials, really, all over the country. Brian Kohberger, of course, accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students. And there was an evidence hearing last week that will affect what we are going to hear at trial this summer. Abby was there. We're going to talk to her a little bit more here in a second. But first, here's the piece that she did on that.
Mr. Kohberger sits here today. He's innocent, and it's up to the state to bring evidence.
Brian Kohberger arrived in shackles to the Ada County Courthouse to hear both sides argue on what evidence should be allowed in his quadruple murder trial. First, the defense doesn't want the surviving roommate's 911 call to be played to the jury. They say it's hearsay.
The 911 call is made 8 hours after whatever happened in that house happened.
But the prosecution says that call is an excited utterance under Idaho rules of evidence.
And 2, the statements were made under the stress and excitement that it caused. And that's clear by listening to that audio.
One of those surviving roommates, Dylan Mortensen, also claims she saw a man walking in her home on King Road the night of the murders. The defense doesn't think her eyewitness testimony is reliable.
She described seeing the person for, quote, only a second, end quote. Her opportunity to see supports unreliability.
The defense also asked for inflammatory evidence to not be shown in trial. That includes content from over 13,000 photos and hours of video content. Judge Stephen Hippler ruled that'll be on a case-by-case basis.
I would imagine from what I've seen, some of those photographs are particularly graphic, but make no mistake, these murders, whoever committed them, were brutal and were horrific.
Another point the defense argued for was to not have Kohberger labeled, not as a murderer or a psychopath. They also don't want Kohberger's autism condition to sway the jury.
Brian's physical body is more stoic, how he sits in one place. And he will look for a long time. Sometimes he'll hold his hands in a rigid position. And that means nothing. That's just how Brian is.
Judge Hippler says it's not close enough to trial to make that kind of ruling, but that the state shouldn't use Kohberger's condition as an aggregating factor. The state says that shouldn't be a problem for them.
We have a lot better aggravating evidence than the fact that he has level 1 autism.
Abby, a lot of interesting stuff going on there. First, we'll start with that diagnosis. I have a lot of friends and family with autism. They've been actually diagnosed with that. None have been accused of murder because of that diagnosis. Does it surprise you that the defense even referenced that?
Right. It was interesting. And the defense's whole argument was they didn't want his diagnosis to affect the outcome of the trial. But what the prosecution was saying was, we have a lot of other evidence. We're not going to necessarily even reference his autism diagnosis. We have X, Y, and Z. So it was surprising, but I think the defense is making sure they've hit all points of the argument.
They talked about inflammatory evidence, which I am not a lawyer, but it sounded like most of the evidence, the fact that he's accused of murder and sort of the grisly scene, these other things. How did you take that when they talked about sort of the inflammatory evidence?
Right. It did seem like a lot of that inflammatory evidence was just the evidence, the Amazon records and where, Kohberger's phone was during the time of the murder. Stuff like that necessarily kind of has to be in the case, in my opinion. And,
yeah, you think.
Judge Hippler kind of said something like that, too, where this was a very, severe case, and we're going to have to put out all of the evidence for it.
Yeah, and sort of have to go just bit by bit, I guess, as it comes up during the trial. Defense also talked about there being an alternate suspect. Had we heard about that before, officially, like in court?
Right. We had not heard about it in court based on what I have reported on so far. I mean, obviously everyone has suspicions.
Right.
But those might be rumors floating about social media. So this was interesting to hear the defense say, we are coming with a suspect that we think could change the outcome of the case. And so I believe their deadline to have all of that evidence in is by the end of May, if I'm correct. So we'll hopefully hear more about that soon. But they seemed confident that they had enough evidence that there was an alternate suspect. So
wow, interesting. Any idea when we're going to hear a ruling from Judge Hippler on what evidence could be admitted in trial?
Right. So he is already rolling out decisions. That hearing was last week, I believe. So 2 weeks ago. So he's starting to roll out the decisions. Last week he ruled that basically it's up to the jury to decide on some of these, some of this evidence that it will be shown. For example, one of the defense's arguments was that the term bushy eyebrows shouldn't be used for the jury, and Judge Hippler said it's up to the jury to decide if his eyebrows are bushy or not. So little things like that are starting to be rolled out. So we'll, of course, update if anything big happens.
Yeah. A lot of people wondering, is the death penalty going to be an option in sentencing?
Yes. So Kohberger is up for the death penalty. So
if he's convicted, obviously.
If he's convicted, yes. So it will be an option.
Okay. Well, we'll wait on that. Again, one of the most watched trials across the entire country. So, Abby, appreciate your reporting on that. Up next, we're going to talk about something less terrible, our city flags. That's coming up right after this. Talked about a lot of heavy stuff today. Now we're going to end on hopefully a lighter note, although people have hot takes on city flags nowadays. Boise tried to change theirs. People lost their minds out there. So they're like, fine, we'll just keep it. Didn't know all of you were so touchy about that. I've decided to take a look at other people's city flags for their hometowns. Abby, I talked to you before the show and you were like, I don't think my hometown does have a city flag. It, in fact, does. I'm going to reveal that to you a little later. First, though, we'll talk about mine. I grew up in beautiful Meridian, Idaho. Andy is going to bring that up now. That is... fine. It's just the name of the town. What are we doing? And then there's a seal. It says, I guess, best used by 1903. No, okay, that's when it was established. Yeah, the star is fine. It's not a capital, though. It's not even a county seat. Abby, do you have hot takes on that?
I personally really don't like that M. Like
the
font, the M. The font of the M is hideous. They really need to fix
cursive.
that.
It looks like
no, it's bad cursive.
Meridian.
I really don't like that. I have hot takes on fonts in general, and that font really gets me.
You have hot takes on fonts? Oh my god!
I had to create my own font in college, so I love fonts. Fun facts.
This is why we do this show. We learn things about people who bring you these stories. Font expert, Abby Wilt. Okay, You are, so Meridian, Idaho, maybe try to change yours, although if we can learn anything from the city of Boise's attempt, maybe don't. Even though people don't love it, as soon as you try to change it, people be like, I will die before I see you change that flag. You are from originally Wenatchee, Washington. Do you know what your city flag looks like?
I have no clue.
No clue.
However,
what
I
if you
think-
were to guess?
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think my guess it's gonna have some apples on it. We're the apple capital of the world, so I bet it's. I think it's like blue with. I think it's blue with like a big apple, and maybe it's or maybe it is an apple. I don't know.
All right, big reveal.
Apples.
Wenatchee, Washington.
Oh.
This is your city
Okay,
flag.
I guess I have seen that. Now that we say that, but
No blue.
No
You
blue.
called it.
Apple.
Does have an apple, and it looks like someone drove over an apple.
what's the yellow?
It looks like tire treads, right? Okay, so I had to, I mean, obviously, and then it's just like, if you don't know, City of Wenatchee. It looks like Times New Roman black on a white background. Somebody threw this together in Word in a matter of 5 minutes. Not to throw any shade, Wenatchee, but now I know why people like the city of Boise and the city of Meridian's flag so much, because this is the alternative. No, so supposedly that's supposed to be like rows of crops.
Oh, I see. Okay, they can do a little better.
Thank
also,
you.
that is not Times New Roman, Justin.
You would
How-
know.
I
You're
would
the
know.
font expert. Can
However,
you
no.
name that font?
I can't name the font, but it
No.
isn't great either. It's also a little ugly. I think the
Okay.
why aren't we crossed our T's and our F's correctly?
Right? We'll just do the back half of the T's and yeah.
Got lazy with it.
They don't even close in the E's. It's like, come on, this is the city flag. Figure it out.
I think the background could be a little more exciting than white as
Oh,
well.
you think stark white is kind of boring?
Yes. I mean, it is Wenatchee.
It's But Wenatchee's not boring, right? You're up in the mountains. There's trees around there. That's fine. It's the apple capital of the world. So
It
you'd have an
is.
apple in there.
It is. I'm proud to be from Wenatchee. Don't worry.
Yeah, less proud of that flag. Bring it up one more time. All right, just to taunt Abby here. Boo, boo, city of Wenatchee flag. I think though it looks like wheat, right? So like rows of wheat or something. Why are you putting wheat on your flag when you're the apple capital of the world? Just have an apple, maybe put it on a blue background, and you don't have to, again, laying out specifically City of Wenatchee. It's the same problem with City of Boise's flag, City of Meridian's flag. You can just put even Meridian or Boise on there. It's like, we understand it's a city. I would hope.
And they could really hype up that they are the apple capital of the world. Why doesn't it say how pretty apple capital of the world with some apples? There's
Yes.
lots of options.
Tons of apples. Maybe throw in some pine trees. They got those around
Yeah,
there.
mountain, Saddle Rock.
I don't even know what that is, but it
Yeah.
sounds beautiful. Put it,
It
on your
is.
flag, Wenatchee. Figure it out. All right. Whew.
We get hyped up too about this.
That got me fired up. Now I get it. I get why people got so fired up about city flags. But when people aren't even trying out there, come on, Wenatchee. All right. Abby, thank you so much for your time. You got to get back to actually creating news that people hear about, and I'll go get back and sit at my desk and prepare to read stories that other people write for me.
I'll write them for you, Justin.
Thank you. Somebody has to. If you have any comments or questions, other hot takes on city flags or whatever, text them to 208-321-5614. Use the hashtag JustIN. We may talk about them here on the show. Abby, again, real pleasure. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time here on KTVB+.